Those that know me as a humanitarian and business and citizen advocate, and of course, an education advocate of C.R.P.H.A. This Father's Day being today, of course, and which is also known to be a spiritual day. Um, this one is directly for my childhood memory. And part of that childhood memory is a sitcom that I wouldn't really call it a sitcom, really. Although it was known even as a sitcom back in the day, even like many other shows are, or TV shows are essentially known as sitcoms. But um, there's there's many people that that I've looked up to and learned from over the years. Yes, I've learned from my parent. Um, be that, of course, my father was only not around a whole lot, only on visits. And of course, my mother left him before I was born. And of course, she had some help by her side of the family. Um, but outside that, I learned from I wouldn't really call them other sources, other caring people, people who I don't know personally, people who are more than well known across this country since the 1960s, 70s, and 80s to start with. Um, and a number of them only mostly known from the 70s through the 80s on through. Um, one of them being Fred Rogers, the late great Fred Rogers, and who was known to many children in my time, in my youth, as Mr. Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Now, he taught me a lot of things. So did Jim Henson and the Muppets on Sesame Street and on the Muppet Show. And now, of course, his friends did a number of things. Although it is said, even remembered by my own mother, that the only one I was freaked out of for some time was Grover, because he was too damn high strung. Literally, too high strung. I mean, he had loads of energy. The characterization had loads of energy, which I understood later on. Um, but he did freak me out. My favorite one, and I even had a T-shirt of later, which was Cookie Monster. My other favorite one was Kermit. Um, and Snuffy was okay. Snuffleupagus was okay. Big Bird became my favorite gradually. Oscar the Grouch was hilarious. I understood it. I understood the fact of his characterization later on in life, but um, and also the human beings that were playing alongside the Muppets. One of them passed away way before I even got any older. Um, and a number of them changed careers eventually, or changed shows, whichever. Um, and of course, I learned. After a number of years, I learned from Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek and the one that wrote for Have Gun Will Travel, Gunsmoke, and and a number of others, and Have Gun Will Travel. Before he created his own series of Star Trek, which basically I over the years I never really agreed with the fact that the networks would give a new person so much headache that he was trying to do something, not really in the entertainment sense, but in the sense to where he was trying to tell a story of, of in his own way, his own right, and what have you else. But the networks were so stupid back then that they gave him a lot of baloney over his now widow and wife, which was not his widow and wife, but just a female actress that he chose that he had one of the picks of to be starring alongside Jeffrey Hunter, Jeffrey Hunter's character of Captain Pike, and who was Jeffrey Hunter, Captain Pike's second in command on the original Starship Enterprise of the NCC 1701D Constitution class Starship Enterprise. Um, then they gave him a little bit of maybe more than a little bit of a headache over Spock, when the now late Nimoy's character, because of the pointed ears, it looked devilish in the black and white screen. It might scare the audience or scare some children while watching it. Judgment is a sin. The basic fact is that I learned over the years from him and what he was really trying to put out there, and he did succeed in doing so, even with the networks breathing down his neck from time to time. Even though I know he wanted to do more than 79 episodes, but I'm sure at one point he didn't want to go too much into it. But eventually, Paramount took over the property of Desilu Studios and wanted to put something through, which later became The Next Generation in '87, and then it went on in between the movies with the original cast and everything, and um, but there is a number of other people in my younger youth. I'm talking 5, 6, 7, maybe 3, 4, to some extent, right? That I can reflect on and remember, and that would have to be the percentage of the gang that you saw on the cover of this video. Of course, Tom Bosley and the one that played Marion Cunningham, and who also went on that '70s show after a while, playing Red Foreman's mother on that '70s show. But both Tom Bosley and her taught me the the proper logical way to be a good parent. I didn't know it then, but as I got older, it became more and more apparent. But Ron Howard taught, along with the Fonz, taught me a number of things. But the Fonz, Henry Winkler's character, he taught me the most. In fact, I wanted to go to the points of emulating him. Maybe the character in the sense that, like I've said in one of my videos before this one, that I emulated Spock with his logic and what have you. And of course, Nemo, even though it was scripted and all that, but nonetheless. Um, Henry Winkler if you're watching this, and if any one of the other Happy Days gang is watching this, I want to thank you. You know that you know that you know that Henry Winkler, if you're watching again, over the course of so many years, as I got older, the more I learned from you on Happy Days. And yes, I learned from the late great Tom Bosley and and the rest of the cast. Even the one that played Joni in some respect of how a sister is essentially, or would be essentially. If I had any sisters that I knew of, although I'm told that I have half sisters, but I've never really met them, and they're on my father's side of the family. Uh, but I have seen pictures. Um, Henry Winkler. The one thing I've been wanting to do, and I was able to do this with James Doohan. I was able to shake his hand and talk with him before he passed. Many years before he passed, and before he had the stroke that he had, even before he was able to go over to the second convention that I went to of the Star Trek convention. Um, for many years now, Henry Winkler, I've been wanting to meet you in person, tell you what you did for me. Because I feel, even though if I say it on video, it may mean the same, but if I ever met you, Henry Winkler, I would not only shake your hand, but I would embrace you because I really do thank you. Yes, I wanted to emulate your character in a way I did my own way over the years, but at the same time as that, I helped many people along the way. I didn't think I'd be emotional, but oh well. We all go through many things in our life, each one to his or her own, and we're confronted with many different things, both positive and negative. But it's those people who we watch on TV or on stage, as it were, on 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 the boob tube, as it once was called, and probably still is called, even with the flat screen situation or statements, whatever. Um, I've never forgotten what you and the gang of Happy Days have taught me when I was younger. 46 years ago. Well, maybe a little less than 46, but you get my point. If I was able to tell you more in person, actually meet you, and yes, I know you've gone on to other shows such as other films, essentially like I think I was Scream 1 and 2, whatever, where you were playing a principal of the school of sorts. And I know he's gone on to other things too, and I know Ron Howard has gone on to other things. Although that fire, I can say honestly, that fireman film that he did, it didn't go through blockbusters in my view. Of course, I know that he did what he could, and what he felt that he was able to put out there, just like Roddenberry. But in a way, he did teach me a number of things as well. Tom Bosley, the late Tom Bosley, taught me things in the sense of being a parent, in which I am. Um, I'm not going to go too much into that. Um, but Henry Winkler, and of course Ralph and Potsy, you did your own thing, which was comical. I enjoyed it, seriously. But yes, the Fonz, Henry Winkler, you were both comical and straightforward and serious. Not too straightforward, which was a good thing. Um, but there's many things, way too much to even to say on this video, and I don't want you to be bored off your butt if I were to list them. But there were many things that you taught me, something that I wasn't even aware of until like much later. Some of them, a certain percentage. I'm not going to say exactly what percentage, but I know there was a percentage. It's weird as I say this, and as I got emotional. I kind of I kind of hear that that song in the background when things get close and personal between the two characters at one point in the show. But Henry Winkler, you know that you are the one that taught me the most. Outside of the parental aspects, outside of the comical teenage antics and such like that, right? Of what Richie and Potsy and Ralph Mouth did. And outside the parental thing of what Tom Bosley's character of Howard Cunningham and Marion Cunningham taught me in their own way. And yes, I know there's ways that actors and actresses can teach a new generation, or the generation that I was a part of, which was in the 1970s. Many things, even without the youth of that particular era, or any era really, if it's done right, and if it's done with the most positive, the positive, you know, and yes, I know that the networks didn't want you to wear. I understand the networks were pretty much breathing down Gary Marshall's neck, especially when it comes to you wearing your leather jacket in the beginning of the series, and pretty much judgmental at the same time. The networks were anyway. And yet, even Gary Marshall knew that he wasn't putting a evil, bad thing out there, even with the Fonz wearing the leather jacket as you did later on in the season. But the things that you've learned as you went through on the show, Henry Winkler, the things that you went through even before. I know many people have different ways of dealing with things, and even more than coping with things. But in many ways, outside my own parental um, outside my own aspect of the word, my parent and her siblings essentially taught me things. Right, the one I mostly focus on is you, Henry Winkler. You taught me a lot of things in a number of the episodes. I can't name them all, but every time I watched them, each one, when they put them in syndication, right, on which was then known to be K.B.H.K. TV 44, which is now C.W. or W.B. 44. I don't know. But no matter the channel, Henry Winkler, you did teach me things, even if you didn't realize. I'm sure you just did what you were asked to do and did it, got it done. Maybe a few bloopers here and there, which I'm sure happens. But when the whole thing was said, the way it was scripted, especially, and the way even if things were rewritten to a certain extent, or various of getting audience reactions in the studio. Um, Regardless of all that, Henry Winkler, you did, you did, you did indeed teach me a hell of a lot more than than I was even aware at that time in my youth. And I can tell you what also got my got a little lump in my throat. Two scenes. The scene between you and Ron Howard after you gave him the plane tickets. And the wedding speech that the late great Tom Bosley said. Then he directed the speech towards the audience, not only the audience in the studio, but also the audience that was watching the show. That really got me. Literally teared up too. Many times I wish I was able to go back in time, relive those days. I'm sure we all do at some point in our lives, in some way, and for any number of reasons, for various numbers of reasons, which we would only know at that point in time. And I know you're probably watching this with Ron Howard. If you're not, and if you're just watching this by yourself, cool either way. Because I'm directing this video to the Happy Days gang. Yes, I know I've mentioned you a lot more in this video so far, Henry Winkler, but I can tell you if I did meet you, and I was able to sit with you and tell you the things that you taught me, The things that I didn't even know that were being taught as I watched the program, the the episode or episodes along the way. I can't really say if I would tear up even then, like I did in this video earlier. But I know if I did, you'd understand. And I know to others I might be making up things just for the hell of it. I'm not. The Fonz was my childhood idol of who I looked up to, and who was you directly. I know, Henry Winkler. The one I looked up to in the parental sense was the late great Tom Bosley, and the one that played Marion Cunningham. Much like Mr. Rogers was when I was much younger than that. But I can tell you, with all things, Henry Winkler, Ron Howard, Donnie Most, or Don Most, and of course Potsy. I know your name. Don't worry, I'm just going by characterization of this one here. I know your actual name, Potsy. Anyway, um, there were some antics that you did, Potsy and Don Most and Howard, kind of the late great Tom Bosley, and also there was antics, of course, that Marion Cunningham did, and also that Donnie Most did, along with the one that played Potsy. But that was a good comic relief. In a way, you taught me the antics of teenage when I was young. And I wasn't even a teenager at that point. Teenager at that point at all. But the one of all the characters, and I respect them all regardless. I would cherish them all. I would even shake their hands and embrace them as well, because I know that's what Fonz would show to be respectful. I know that for a fact. But also, I would also still embrace and not only shake your hand, Henry Winkler. And no, I wouldn't just envision the Fonz as I do this. You did something, Henry Winkler, that again, like I said, you did. I didn't even realize when I was younger. But as I got older, it became more and more apparent. You taught me things. You taught me in many ways the cast in their own way. Be that of course entertaining, but and see Henry Winkler, you and Tom Bosley, and the one that played Marion Cunningham taught me a lot of things before I went out in the real world. And I'm pointing out the window here, just to let you know. Before I went out in the real world, even in the base of independence. And I'd have to thank the late great Gary Marshall for putting that together, actually, which I do. Um, but all aside of that, those things, Henry Winkler, you are the one who taught me things that I guess you could say that I mostly focus on. Yes, I focused on the other characters. I mean, yeah, of course, I'm going to be watching Richie Cunningham, Potsy, Ralph Malph go through um, various antics, and as they learn how to deal with things in their own way. And yet, I know your character here, Henry Winkler, as the Fonz, helped them out in many ways. And you didn't go to the points of violence at all. Like it was maybe thought that if you wore a leather jacket that you look like a hoodlum, like a bad guy when you really weren't. It was just the style of the character, you know. And I saw that too, even if the network idiots didn't see it. Uh, as you could probably tell, I'm watching Happy Days right now, but but I can tell you honestly, Henry Winkler, if I ever get the chance to meet you, believe me, I won't. I know it's gonna be like many people think. Well, if I meet you, that I'm gonna be starstruck, right? No, that's not. I don't go by that cliche, or even if it isn't a cliche. But you've taught me a lot of things. I know I've mentioned that so many so many times. But Henry Winkler, you know that I want to first off wish you to have a happy Father's Day. But the child inside me, the child that you taught, because we all have a child within us. No matter even if we realize it, try to ignore it, try to separate ourselves from it, which we can't really. You know, we can try all we want to separate ourselves from the child within us, and who later formed into the people we are now. You know what I mean? But the child within me has been wanting to meet you, Henry Winkler. And yes, I'd be able, I would be more than willing to meet the rest of the cast too, the ones that are still with us, especially. Of course, I can say Robin Williams taught me, the late great Robin Williams taught me things, especially along with Pam Dauber, as Mindy on Mork and Mindy taught me things. But that one's not about. This video is not directly towards that, but although I know Robin Williams did do a number of guest star shots on there on Happy Days. And of course, did a spin off just like Laverne and Shirley, Cindy Williams, and Penny Marshall. Of course, if I met Cindy Williams, she looks a little bit the same, but not to the full extent. Of course, years gone by, but hey, I understand that. But directly for the Happy Days gang, if I met the Happy Days gang, first off, you, Henry Winkler, believe me, I won't be going to the points of like starstruck or nothing like that. It would be such of an additional thing to always not only cherish, not only to remember, because even if we lose our memory at some point, we always have it within us of what happened in our life. Even the base of Alzheimer's, and I'm not saying that I would get Alzheimer's. I'm not saying I do have Alzheimer's. I'm not saying that. But when people do get that, we don't really lose the part of ourselves that we know went through things as we did, and how we went through it, and how we were able to deal with it, and all this, and who we were um, able to meet and get to know, and what have you, and the things that we've done to even better the people, the person within us to start with, and to better ourselves as we do to better the person within us. You know, I know I'm not trying to be intellectual or nothing, but I've been wanting to meet you, Henry Winkler, because like I said, you taught me things that I didn't realize was coming through the TV screen when I was younger, and all the things that were said came through here, and in some way or another, it was in a different aspect of education. I may sound crazy. I'm not crazy, but I'm looking at it in in a way that nobody else would be able to even understand. Possibly not even you, but I'm not going to judge. But the one thing is, though, Henry Winkler, you did teach me a lot of things. Again, way too much to say on this video. And so did Tom Bosley. So did Ron Howard in a way with his comic antics, and of course um, with Donnie Most and Potsy's comic antics as well. I can tell you one thing: if I had a person like you emulated on Happy Days, Henry Winkler, I didn't even cherish that. But I didn't have anybody that did exactly all the things that you've done on that show for the people who for the characters that played on there as you were playing the Fonz. Granted, I did help people through many things in my own way. Granted, but you could say it's a good thing too. But Henry Winkler, I can say that. Believe me, I would tell you a whole lot. All the things that I would come be able to come to me if I were to meet you in person, and if I were to actually be able to talk with you, even even keep in contact with you. like a brother. And I would believe me, I would try not to call you like if you were busy with things or whatnot. But I would know that you're there. You would be there if there's anything I needed, and I'd be around for you as well. I'd be around for Ron Howard as a brother, and Donnie Most, and the one that played Potsy as well. And yes, I'm well aware that Joni, the one that played Joni, she passed on a number of years back, not that far from now, not that far from 2020. Um, from the year of 2020 anyway, I should say. She will be missed. I know. And I know the studio gypped you guys on the products that they made with you with your faces and what have you on it. And along with this symbol of the show, but I do. There's one other thing I do also remember, and I will always cherish. I wish I had it right now too. It was a red lined lunchbox with a yellow background on possibly either both sides or just the one side. It was you, Henry Winkler, on or alongside the motorbike, and Richie Cunningham, Ron Howard, Donnie Most, and of course Potsy. And don't worry, Potsy, I know you're real man. Don't worry. But and here, right about here was the symbol, the red line over it, like a frame, right? The yellow background, the bike, you, Henry Winkler, Ron Howard, Donnie Most, and Potsy. I had that was on a lunchbox that I had when I was younger, going to school. And you know, the one thing is, I eventually did get a leather jacket. Not like yours though. Not like what you have in the Smithsonian next to Archie Bunker's chair of whatnot. And even with that leather jacket, I wasn't trying to emulate anything, but it was good that I was able to get one eventually, I suppose. But one of many things that I've carried with me is all the things that you, on the Happy Days gang, taught me. Most of all, you, Henry Winkler. And I've said that they may not have known that they were teaching me things. All they were doing was doing a part, doing a scene, in various parts of of each episode. That's that's more than understandable. You were doing things as employment as to make some money to survive. You were much older than I was at the time. You were trying to make a living for yourself. But it is true. Once if it's put together right, if it is put together right with the right type of cast members, there's things that you would be able to teach the next generation without even realizing that's exactly what you're doing. Because even at a young age, the child doesn't know until they get much older. Then when they think back, well, this is what I learned from this in this part of my life, and it's because of this person, or when I was watching this show or that show or whatever, right? Whatever, however they want to look at it, or however they want to think about it. But I didn't go by a show. I went, well, and this is what I learned from Happy Days, and forget about the characters or the actors and actresses. I went into the episode. It was like I would be sitting on that couch in the Cunningham's house, or sitting in the booth along side you, Richie Cunningham, Ron Howard, Ralph Mouth, Don Most, and Potsy, learning things as it's being said and done, and what have as things went on, learning things how the way things were put forth, and I didn't, and I mean, yeah, I know it was all scripted and all, right? But I mean, I knew later on. I didn't know then, but I knew later on it was all scripted. But then I didn't. I didn't pay attention to, well, this is what they're supposed to do according to script. I just watched it. I just watched it and let it happen as it happened. I just watched it as it happened, essentially. But along the way, in between all that, you, most of all, Henry Winkler, taught me things, and I want to thank you. And I do want to, and I really do want to meet you if I could. There's a lot of things on here that
Oh, you see, Cindy passes by this way every day on her way home from school. This is just sort of a message to her. I love sheep. No, you. I love you. A female sheep.
I'm watching the part where it's you and Ron Howard.
Oh, hi, Cindy. Well, I was just writing you
But seriously though, Henry Winkler, I do want to thank you, and I would like to also thank the other gang too, and also the late great Tom Bosley. But I'm not able to thank him until we get to the next life, as it were. Um, Even the one that played Al was very kooky, eh, in the comical antics. The one that played Takahashi, uh, the one I think he later on, I think he was. He might. It's it's weird. He looks exactly like the person that played the trainer and teacher on the Karate Kid movie. I'm not saying he was. It could be there's actors that look alike. Um, but he had some good antics too. But all in all, Henry Winkler, you, along with the other cast in their own way too, but you most of all, taught me a lot of things without even me realizing it until I got older. then I was able to reflect, think back, and I want to thank you. And I do want to still meet you and thank you and even possibly tell you more than I have on this video. If I ever given a chance, and I do pray that I do get the chance to meet you, Henry Winkler. And if I meet Ron Howard too, that's cool. If I meet the other people along with the one that played Marion Cunningham, cool. But it would give me a chance to thank each and every one. Maybe not really Tom Bosley because he passed on way too soon. But I think in a spiritual sense right now, Heavenly Father will thank him for me. But before it gets any later, I want to have the chance and get the chance to meet you. And like I said, I'd be more than happy to meet Ron Howard and the rest of the cast that's still with us, along with you, and I will easily tell you a lot more than I did on this video. And also, Happy Father's Day. If you want to make a response video, be my guest, my friend. Because believe me, this child inside me wants to thank you, and I want to thank you. The child inside me will always remember you and what you did. In the sense of how you did it on the show, you taught me a lot of things. So many things that I wouldn't be able to list. So many of them on the video to make you like, yeah, when is this person gonna stop talking? You know. But the basic fact is that you taught me a lot of things that I've carried along with me for years, and I will continue to carry along with me. That will hopefully be able to teach my children. So Henry Winkler, I thank you, my friend. And in the spiritual way, I do love you. Because we are Heavenly Father's children after all, right? We are all brothers and sisters in a spiritual sense. And yes, I'm a spiritual person because I'm part of a church that I've been part of since 2006. But outside of that, I don't believe and I don't feel that I would be the person that I am even today if it wasn't for you. And if it wasn't for Tom Bosley and the one that played Marion Cunningham and the rest for even with their antics. But you, most of all, Henry Winkler, as the Fonz, taught me a lot of things. Tom Bosley and the one that played Marion Cunningham taught me in the ways of being a good parent and everything. But you, Henry Winkler, taught me a lot of things. And of course, in maybe in the later episodes, the other characters of Ron Howard's character and Ralph Malph on Don Most or Donnie Most at the time, and of course Potsy taught me things. But again, and this is not a favoritism or nothing like that. It's the fact that I focused on you and Henry Winkler for many reasons. Is because it was you who I had the most focus on as a child. You taught me a lot of things, and at the same time, you were comical in your own right, in your own way as well. Thank you. and I want you to stay safe. And like I said, if I get to meet you, believe me, I'll always cherish that as well. Have a good day.